Welcome to ACC Nation. That's Will Ogenin. I'm Jim Quist, and we're going to talk sports. We've got a lot of sports on the plate through the ACC and heading into the NCAA. One of the things that we'll be talking about tonight is the ACC Women's Basketball Tournament. Then, which is coming up, is the ACC Men's Basketball Tournament. So we're going to be focused a little bit more on that. But before we get there, well, let's talk a little bit about some of the teams that have been doing pretty well here. And when we had Joshua Voles on the program talking about Notre Dame, the fencing program had just won the ACC tournament. And just as a reminder, the NCAA tournament is coming up March 24th through 27th. Guess where that's going to be? Notre Dame.
Oh,
Hey, how about that?
what a coinkydink.
It is a coinkydink and well-deserved. They have, of course, done very well over the last couple of years, not only in the ACC, but in the NCAA. So congratulations again to them. We're going to also keep an eye on swimming and diving. And it's not going to be at Notre Dame. It's going to be at Georgia Tech. The swimming and diving championships March 23rd through 26th. So that's another thing that we want to keep an eye on. Congratulations to NC State's wrestling team, who has won the ACC championship. The final team standings in the tournament: NC State, Virginia Tech, Pitt, North Carolina, Virginia, and Duke. And now we'll find out here relatively soon who's going where and how they're going to be bracketed. That's the part that's really more of a special thing to take a look at in a couple of days. So this is being recorded on the 7th. The official NCAA bracket comes out March 9th. The NCAA wrestling tournament is going to be held in Detroit March 17th through the 19th.
Suffice to say, they DDT'd the competition at the ACC tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see what you did. Okay.
Not the same kind of wrestling, but
yeah. Good line, man. So we'll see a lot of the ACC guys in the NCAA as always. A lot of great wrestlers, and we're going to be losing some of them because some of them are graduating this year, and have been watching, for the last couple of years, watching them rise in the rankings nationally.
And it's no surprise that the two most consistent programs in recent memory, NC State and Virginia Tech, are right there again. I mean, NC State, I don't know how many years. I feel like they've won the ACC quite a few years in a row. I don't remember the number right offhand, but I feel like they've won quite a few.
Yeah, I'd say that.
And Virginia, if it wasn't them, it was Virginia Tech. It's really been those two programs for a while now.
Pack has done 4 years in a row now.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Not bad.
Yeah, impressive.
Not bad. Yeah, we'll have more details on all of the how the wrestlers performed and whatnot. And as I said, as soon as the NCAA comes out with their bracket information, we'll share that as well and keep you updated on what's going on. Let's talk about basketball, Will, and we'll start with the ACC Women's Basketball Tournament. And anybody who has been watching ACC basketball this year will just assume it's probably going to be, NC State, Louisville, and or Notre Dame, in that mix. Definitely NC State.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the blue, one of the lowest seeded teams in the tournament came out of nowhere and ended up going head to head with NC State, and that's Miami. Congratulations on a heck of a run. They won 3 games, 3 days, and if they had won the championship, they would have won 4 games in 4 days. That in itself, along with the fact that they were might have been the lowest seed to have ever won an ACC tournament. So pretty impressive run by Miami. So I want to give them kudos before we talk a little bit about the great job that Elisa Kunin did with NC State. And she's not the only one, but she had 17 points, 8 rebounds, and exited the game briefly in the second half because they were a little concerned about what appeared to be an injury to a lower leg. And that's what we call ankle in most parts of the world. But she toughed it out and came back in the remaining minutes and really did 17 points, 8 rebounds. That's pretty impressive. Raina Perez and Diamond Johnson, Kayla Jones, and her backup, Camille Hobby, who came in when Kunin went out, did a great job and helped to lift the Wolfpack over Miami. And the final score in the championship game was 60-47. Very impressive.
Yeah. And yeah, it was a pretty remarkable job by Miami. Remember, you mentioned that they almost went, 4 games in 4 days to win out. Yeah. An impressive win against Louisville. And you're probably sitting there, what happened to Louisville? Shouldn't have been Louisville's versus NC State. Yeah, well, Miami kind of spoiled that party. And really it was, they faced each other in that quarterfinal game. Miami outscored Louisville 23-7 in the fourth quarter. Just an excellent defensive job. They had a shot at the buzzer to win that game. And like I say, pulled off a major upset and ended up facing Notre Dame in the semis. Got out in front of them 12-4 in the first quarter. Again, defense really showing up for them. And then they held on for the win, won by 3 in that semifinal game. But yeah, it was just going to be a tall ask to knock off NC State. And like you said, Kunin, 17-8 in that championship game. And, when you look at the women's basketball teams that are sort of the, benchmarks for this league, that's one of them right there. And we'll find out. We're still a week away from the tournament, but this run definitely locks Miami into the field. But it feels like even with the loss, Louisville's still going to be locked in as a 1 seed. At worst, they might be like the best number 2, but obviously NC State's going to be a 1. There's no doubt about that. And I was taking a look at Charlie Cream's bracketology, and what a difference, on the women's side is compared to the men's side. We're sitting here on the men's side thinking they're even going to be getting 5 in. Charlie Cream's latest bracketology has, I believe, 8 ACC teams in, yep, and a couple just on the outside, like Boston College and Duke are just on the outside looking in. So big, a great all around season for the women's side. And you say 8 teams potentially in the tournament, one, a couple who have an outside shot, but the conference tournaments still haven't wrapped up. Like I said, we're still a week away from Selection Sunday on the women's side. We'll eventually, pare it down to 4, which will be playing about 15 miles up the road from me in Minneapolis. And depending on the time of the day you get there, it could take anywhere from 25 minutes to an hour. You got to hit that Minneapolis traffic.
Tell them what the temperature is.
Well, it's not that bad. It's only 26 degrees as we were recording here.
Not that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad at all. Last week it was warmer. It was in the 40s, almost touched 50 one day last week. So no, it's going to be, I don't know what it's going to be. So we're still a few weeks off from knowing, but remember for the men's Final Four here, 2019, it was really nice weather all the way until the day after everyone left when we got 6 inches of snow on the ground.
You should actually, I think by the time the first round of play begins, it should have warmed up a little bit. Maybe
we'll see
40s, maybe to 50s.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that.
You mentioned the NCAA selection show, and this year things are a little different. They're doing things quite a bit differently in both the men's and the women's, as opposed to the last couple of years. They're sort of combining things and streamlining the whole operation, which I like. I think this is a really good move. NCAA NCAA selection show is on Sunday, March 13th. The guys are going to be at 6 p.m. The women are going to be at 8 p.m. Both of those shows, basically it's back to back on ESPN. So that will allow everybody to sort of get focused in there on who's going where. The first 4 games for the women are going to be on Wednesday, March 16th.
And that's a new thing for this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
The first 4, the playing games.
Yeah, that is a brand new thing for them as well. So basically everybody is at field of 68. Everybody's using net rankings these days too. Mm-hmm. We've gotten away from the RPI. You can still find the RPI if you look hard enough, but it's net rankings. So, and you mentioned Charlie Cream. The latest that I saw for Miami was a 10 seed. He did have an arrow down on Miami, and I'm thinking, why would you put an arrow down on a team that just made that kind of a run in a very tough tournament?
Beat one of the 5 best teams in the country, and you're going to drop them? Okay, that makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't.
And another top 25 team in Notre Dame at that.
Yeah, I don't get that. At the very least, it should have just been even.
Yeah,
I don't know. Everybody has a different way of doing things. And I will just say to everybody that if you're looking at bracketology right now, probably going to be seeing brackets come out from the likes of Lenardi and Cream and whoever else is putting stuff out. Our friend Jason Carmelo at Big Underdog. You're going to be seeing stuff on literally a daily basis because we are in tournament time. And if there's going to be a hit to somebody, they lose, they've got to make that adjustment. So we'll see. And I would encourage everybody, if you haven't watched the podcast Will and I did with Jason, you really ought to go back and take a look at that bracketology with Jason Carmelo. It is literally a bracketology 101. If you're not familiar with it, it'll give you some insight. And even if you have insight, it'll make things a little clearer for you, give you a little better feel. And then if you go to his site, you'll see what he's putting together on a regular basis. And he's got some great information, a really good way of looking at things. And he is, as Will noted in the podcast with Jason, that Jason is ranked pretty high among people who are doing brackets. In fact, he's higher than Lenardi. So
by 20 spots, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, which is pretty significant. All right, let's look at all of the players of the year and the coach of the year. And we'll start with the coach of the year. And let me just ask you if you think that is a surprise at all that Steve Forbes of Wake Forest is the guy.
No, not at all. I felt he was most deserving of the award. The only other person I would have probably considered for it was Jim Larinaga. When you look at what Wake Forest accomplished, given expectations, is it tends to go to the coach that exceeds expectations like the most. Obviously, both Wake Forest and Miami exceeded expectations quite a bit. Notre Dame to an extent too. But I think Wake was projected to be like maybe next to last or bottom 3 of the league this season. And I took a big L on that because I picked them like next to last in my predictions at the beginning of the year. But again, nobody thought in November that they would end up with the ACC Player of the Year on their team. We didn't know Alondis Williams would be Alondis Williams in all caps.
Yeah.
We didn't realize Jake LaRavia would be, a big time contributor for them. And, all the other guys that have just, done really well, Isaiah Musius and whatnot, and all these guys who have, a guy like him who's been around the program for a while. And Forbes, you've seen his track record at East Tennessee State. He builds and he absolutely 100% deserved it. And he 100% deserved the contract extension he got afterwards.
That's right.
he,
That's
he was going to get paid in one way, shape, or form. And obviously I kind of figured Wake would be the team that paid him up. And yeah, like I said, 100% deserving of everything that's come to him this season.
Yeah, it's a good investment and on both sides. Steve Forbes, very deserving and very significantly winning vote-wise in the Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Here's how it stacked up. Forbes, Coach Krzyzewski, Mike Bray, Jim Larinaga, Mike Young, Hubert Davis, and Tony Bennett. That's basically how the voting all stacked up there. And not to diss on Coach K here at all, but I think some of that was sentimentality voting because.
Did you know he's retiring?
Yeah, I know. I hadn't heard it on ESPN forever, all year. And again, that's not dissing on Mike. I honestly, I've said it before. I have a great deal of appreciation and respect for Mike Krzyzewski, and I think that his departure does ding basketball overall. And but things change. Things move forward. I mean, that's just the way it is. We all get older, et cetera.
It's an inevitability.
And the thing that kind of bothered me, I often had in the back of my mind, and he's had some health issues.
Mm-hmm.
He's had in
the back
of my mind that there was something else going on there. And this year, he had some issues. And, I don't know what's going on. I mean, it's not like he's ancient.
Yeah.
He
was sick and missed the second half of the Wake game this season, the one where Wake came back and nearly won at Cameron.
Well, I hope he's okay. And I hope that he has, a great retirement and enjoys the after coaching life.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to make that adjustment sometimes because you're running. It's like being on an interstate and then pulling off and driving down a rural road, 15 to 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's an adjustment.
Yeah.
And,
go get that puppy. He was saying he was going to get when the season's over.
Yeah. Hope it all goes well. Thanks for all your time and what you've given to us, and whether you were rooting for Duke or you were rooting against Coach K. He contributed something to your life and your history as a sports fan. So
yeah,
appreciate that. As you mentioned just a few moments ago, Wake's Alondis Williams is the ACC Player of the Year. So. And well-deserved too. I mean, as you said, who expected that?
Yeah.
Who would have seen that one coming?
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it? I mean, he was, like I say, he led the league in two different categories, points and assists, I believe. And I think it was really a 2-horse race between him and Armando Bacot at the end of the year. And Bacot made a real strong case for himself in the finale Saturday night at Duke. But I just felt like Williams was just all around better this season, just in terms of what is value to Wake Forest. And you're looking at a guy who was averaging 17 minutes a game at Oklahoma, comes here and is all of a sudden he blows up and he's winning ACC Player of the Year. And credit to Steve Forbes and the coaching staff for finding him and unlocking whatever it is that Oklahoma failed to unlock in him. And that's why Steve Forbes is such a good coach. And I think he's definitely deserved it. And Bacot was a real strong second. He did really good things for North Carolina this year. He had games where he was just far and away the best player on the court, but there were times where he was a little inconsistent, and I felt like Williams was a little more consistent this year.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The voting, the top 3 people for ACC Player of the Year, Williams, Bacot, and Banchero. So that which sort of transitions into our freshman of the year, and that's Paulo Banchero of Duke, who was overwhelmingly selected as that, and followed up by Blake Wesley, Turquovian Smith of NC State, and Trevor Keels of Duke. So,
Yeah, I'm surprised that there were 6 other votes. I mean, yeah, Banchero was the best freshman in the ACC, and I don't think it was that close. I mean, yeah, obviously 4 people saw what Blake Wesley can do this season. And as we say, Joshua Volzel said it last week, yeah, he was good, but he's got a lot to work on still. Turquovian Smith was kind of one of those guys that, he was kind of unheralded, kind of came out of nowhere, was pretty much one of the few bright spots for NC State this season. And obviously Trevor Keels got 1 vote because I guess, if I was going to give a second vote for a Duke player, I would have given it to AJ Griffin personally. I mean, the guy was, he was a lot of the reason Duke had some success towards the end of the year. I mean, for Cripe's sake, the dude was borderline automatic from 3 by the end of the season. I mean, he wasn't so much in the second half of the Duke game because Leaky Black stifled him, but he was really good. I remember that Virginia game where he was just unconscious in the second half, and was a lot of the reason they won that game. But yeah, Paulo deserved it pretty much in every step of the way, except for when he had to face Jaden Gardner.
Yeah. Defensive Player of the Year, Mark Williams, Duke. Most Improved Player, Darian Seabrun of North Carolina State. And 6th Man of the Year, Matthew Cleveland from Florida State.
Yeah, was that second year in a row, 6th man from the Florida State? I believe Scotty Barnes won it last year. Matthew, another highly touted freshman from Florida State winning that award. Matthew Cleveland, he was the jewel of this 2022 recruit or 2021 recruiting class. And I don't know if he's going to go pro after the season. I mean, I haven't heard anything, definitive either way. But certainly deserved it. Most Improved Player, yeah, I can see Sebron. I mean, again, we talked about Turquovian Smith as being a bright spot for them. This was the other one. I mean, we saw flashes from Sebron last year. To say he might be a really good player, and he really stepped up this year. I do have a little bit of an issue with the Defensive Player of the Year thing. I feel like Reese Beekman was the best defensive player in this league. Not sure what. I'm not going to sit here and call out the ACC media for it, but I just kind of wonder if I kind of jokingly said on Twitter that is the ACC media just kind of tired of giving the award to Virginia players every year? I mean,
it was close in the voting.
Not close enough. I mean, I figure you've seen what Beekman's done against a lot of the guards in this league. I mean, played Isaiah Wong twice and absolutely stuffed him. Did the same to Hunter Couture when he faced him, and pretty much anybody he faces, they have a rough game against him. And I felt he was more deserving, but I'm not going to say here and jump on my high horse. It's not worth wasting my time.
Tis not. It is what it is. By the way, Cleveland is the 4th straight Seminole to win that honor. How about that? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, but it's also a testament to what Leonard Hamilton can do. I mean, he how many players does he play every game? I mean, maybe not so much this year because of all the injury issues, but generally you're going to see, so many players play, significant roles on this team. And it just so happens that he usually rolls a 5-star off the bench right away.
Man, a lot to be said for Florida State. I'm still amazed that they did not deliver the way we anticipated that they would this year.
Yeah, it was just all because of injuries. When they started getting all their injury issues, they were in first place in the league. It was in late January, but I don't care who you are, you're not going to overcome, losing, 4 players the caliber they did.
No, that just gut you. And that's exactly what happened. They got gutted. First team all ACC, Armando Bacot of North Carolina, Alondis Williams of Wake Forest, Paolo Banchero of Duke, Cameron McGusty of Miami, and Buddy Boeheim of Syracuse. One of the things that I'll point out here about about selecting first, second, third, and honorable mention. It's a long list, and it's chock full of stellar players. It's very, very difficult to sit down with a conference with 15 teams, uh, with a number of players that play an important role on each one of those teams, and to say, I'm going to pick 5
Mhm.
out of all those players as my first team. And so I know that it offends people year after year. I hear it. And sometimes it's me, that I look at this and I go, how is this person on third team and not on first? That sort of thing. Um, I, I wouldn't put too much stock in it. It's a nice nod.
Mhm.
It's a nice nod. It's, and quite frankly, again, when you have a conference like the ACC where you have tons of stars, excellent players, if you're on any of these teams, first, second, or third, as far as I'm concerned, that's, it should be like an all conference. Here you go, something like that. That way we
May-
get away from this pigeonholing people.
Maybe the ACC should do what the WCC does and make like 10-man first teams.
There you go.
I'm
Well,
joking, folks.
but you think about this for a second. There are a lot of conferences that have systems set up that you'll go, okay, you know what? We've got 2 phenomenal guards here. How can you say that this one's better than this one without going into stats, and then it becomes very subjective.
Mhm.
So, there is something to be said for going that route. I don't know. Again, I'm just telling people, don't get upset with this.
Mhm.
It's truly not worth getting upset over, this sort of thing. The most improved player was Sebron of NC State, and yeah, I can see that.
Mhm.
So, that's pretty much your rollout of that list of the all ACC team and all of the accolades to the coach of the year and stuff. So let's get into talking about this ACC tournament at Barclays Center. This is going to be some phenomenal ball. Um, I think that even the first round has the potential. There's a couple of games in the first and second round that I think are going to probably be barn burners. And on
Mhm.
paper, they look good. Now, here's the thing. Some of these teams are not going to go any further, but it's pride. And for me, if you have pride in your performance as an athlete, in your team, and that goes for the coach as well, if that's where you're coming from, which I hope you are, then you put it all out on the court. You try to make a run and be the spoiler and go for the entire ball of wax in a tournament like this. And that's what I'm hoping is going to happen here. I don't see, and I'm not going to name the team that did this, but there was a team a couple of years back that had an issue with a coach, and the players were just sort of like, we're checked out. And it got ugly. And so that's not going to happen this year. I don't think we've got anybody that fits that.
We'll see. I would not be surprised if one of these teams that plays on Tuesday is checked out, but I'm not going to mention it.
I hope not. I hope that does not happen. Um, I think that if you got any dignity and self pride at all, you're going to go out there and you're going to give it everything you got.
Mhm.
And look at it this way: if keep this in mind, if you have any hopes of going to the next level at all, period, and you go out and you whiff it, who wants you? So Just a little reminder for you. So let's look at what's going on, Will. Everything starts on Tuesday, and which is essentially tomorrow from the standpoint of when this is going to be on. We record on Monday nights. It will be starting at 2:00 in the afternoon Eastern time. And all of these games will be on the ACC network. The first game is Pitt versus Boston College. This has a possibility. Pitt has not been playing great lately. Boston College has really done a great job this season and surprised a couple of people significantly when, the outcome of the game. But this has a potential of having a really competitive feel to it. We'll see whether or not that happens. Mm-hmm. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, this is a big toss up, really. I was looking at this before we went on, and I'm like, this could really go either way. I could see Pitt, I could see both teams winning. And we talked about it with Boston College. I think they did a really good job this year. I feel like they were probably the least talented team in this league, and they still found their way to, I believe it was 6 conference wins and the 13 seed. And yeah, that's a pretty nice start for Earl Grant. Their issues are they're obviously, they don't have a ton of talent. They can't shoot the 3 very well. And I think some of those issues will be addressed with this upcoming recruiting class. But it's still going to be a couple of years away from us thinking about Boston College flirting with the tournament. But then again, Pitt, they've been the team that's been trending down the last couple of years. I don't think Capel's going to get fired because supposedly he's got a $15 million buyout if they do it after the season. But I just don't see a lot there. He's a good recruiter. He would crush as an assistant coach, and he did that at Duke. But he's just not capable of being his own being a head coach. He's not a great tactician. But I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm going to take Boston College to win this one. I'm not super confident. It's probably like a 51-49, like percentage wise type thing. I'm just going to, I feel like Boston College could take this one, but again, not super confident in it.
Okay. Our next game up at 4:30, and note to self, put an asterisk beside each one of these times.
Yes.
Because we don't know for sure that it'll start at exactly 4:30. Number 10, Clemson versus number 15, NC State. Clemson's been on a roll, man. They have been beating some teams, and NC State is yeah. I just expect so much more out of NC State, and I'm not getting it.
Yeah. You mentioned it with Clemson, big win over the weekend, all but knocked or ended Virginia Tech's NCAA tournament in hopes, unless they catch fire and make it to like the semis or something. But that was a big win for them. Clemson's also beaten Wake Forest this year, beat them at home too. So they can jump up and get you at times, but I'm still not like the biggest, believer in Brad Brownell. I do like PJ Hall. He was one of the players that got votes for most improved player. He has really shown a lot this year. He'll probably be somebody who you look at as an all ACC player in the preseason and next season. NC State, they've just, it's just been a rough season. They're 11-20, 4-16 in the league. Obviously lost their best defensive player, Manny Bates, first game of the season. Made a difference in this team. Their defense was really bad, 257th per Ken Palm. They just cannot defend at all. They've lost 4 in a row. I would say they have some really good talent. We just talked about it. Turquovian Smith got a vote for freshman of the year. Darian Seabrun, most improved player. Cam Hayes is somebody that has really shown something as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and take Clemson to win this one. I just don't know if NC State's going to be up for this.
Yeah. At 7 o'clock, number 11 Louisville versus number 14 Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, if you remember, last year was the tournament champion.
Yep. Boy, how much did they miss Jose Alvarado this year?
Huge.
Yeah. So it tells you how important point guard play is in college basketball. I mean, you have a guy like, 4-year guy like Jose Alvarado who meant everything to that program, and he moves on and is balling out in Oklahoma City, and now you finish as the number 4. Now you're the number 14 seed next year with a lot of the key players back. Obviously, not counting Most Right either, but this is a team that has a lot of issues. They're fairly well defined. I just don't think they're super talented. And I'll be honest, I think Josh Pastner is probably the best cheerleader in the ACC. Coach wise, there's not much there. Louisville, I think, they're ready for the season to end. I don't think there's any doubt in that.
Yeah.
I could see them trying tomorrow and on Tuesday and winning, but I could also just see them going F it. Let's just get this over with so we can, get onto the off season. I'm just going to base this purely off talent. I'm going to take Louisville. I'm hoping that they actually show up and try tomorrow. Cause I think they should win this game.
Okay. On Wednesday, the 9th, second round, the first game starts at noon. It's number 8 Florida State and number 9 Syracuse. This is the battle.
Hell of a game. Kick off Wednesday. Your 8-9 game. Florida State, obviously they're a super talented team, but as we mentioned, they've run the gamut of injuries. I think one of those players could be coming back for this game. Syracuse, obviously they have the Boeheims and not much else. They can shoot, but they can't defend. I'm going to go with the Noles in this, but we know when we get to Wednesday, we're going to be hearing about, here comes Syracuse, and in tournament time, they're going to make that surge to try to get into the tournament, and it's not going to happen. They do not.
Hear it every year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This year especially.
Boy. Then at 2:30, and really there's nothing to talk about here. 2:30, it's number 5 Wake Forest will take on the winner of the Pitt Boston College game. 7, it's number 7 Virginia Tech versus Clemson NC State winner. 9:30, number 6 Virginia takes on the Louisville Georgia Tech winner. So basically, if you look at these games, Wake Forest, and I'd say Virginia both have the best shot of moving forward. Virginia Tech could run into a real roadblock here if it's Clemson.
Well, we could have repeats of Saturday games here if Louisville were to beat Georgia Tech, we'd have Louisville, Virginia, a rematch from last Saturday to Virginia won by 10, and Virginia Tech, Clemson, which is a game that Clemson, won by 4 over the weekend. But obviously these are up in Brooklyn and not on the respective home floors. But yeah, I don't foresee a whole lot going sideways for one of those teams. The only, like I say, I think, I think Virginia Tech is, they're probably the most desperate to win because they're probably, if you're looking at teams that are closest to the bubble of teams that are out right now, it's Virginia Tech. If you look at all the metrics, they cannot afford a loss here, especially to a Clemson. Obviously Virginia's right behind him. If you look at Lenardi's bracketology, they obviously can't afford a loss either, but I think those two are going to be have a lot more to play for. And I think those two should move on with ease.
And to be frank about it, I don't think Wake Forest can afford to lose to Pitt or Boston College.
That's a good point too, because they're right on the bubble too. As much as I feel like they deserve to get in, a lot of that has to do with their non-con having like nothing to it, but they can afford to lose either. And we still don't know. They're just so early in the week still because we don't have any bid these as of yet. So a lot can change in the next 6 days, though.
Right. At the quarterfinals, this is where we see the debut of Duke. They started playing at noon. 2:30, it's number 4 Miami. At 7, it's number 2 Notre Dame, and at 9:30, it's number 3 North Carolina. And then on Friday, it's the semifinals at 9 and at 9:30. And on Saturday, and thank goodness they're doing it this way, Saturday at 8:30, it's the championship game. That's going to be on ESPN, by the way. I any guesses as to who might be in this? Because I'm not 100% confident that it's going to be who you think it's going to be.
Yeah, you're right. I feel like this is a really open tournament. I look at, obviously Duke's the 1 seed, but even if they get past Florida State or Syracuse, whoever wins between Miami and Wake Forest, that could be a real good game. Remember, Wake took him to the buzzer on a controversial goaltending call at Cameron. Miami is a team that I think they can, at least on terms of guards, they can defend Duke at the guard. I don't know if they have anybody that can really stop Ncaa or Mark Williams, but if they can defend, and prevent AJ Griffin from hitting a bunch of threes, then they have a shot. Wake, like I said, they have the ACC player of the year. Their guards are really good. Again, I just don't know if they have the bigs that can match up with Williams and Banchero. I would not be surprised, though, if Virginia Tech, goes on to win against Clemson or NC State. I would not be surprised if they upset Notre Dame, to be honest with you. I feel like they have I was doing a little research on this, and he's just looking at like Ken Palm's metrics. Notre Dame had like the easiest schedule of everybody in the ACC this year, so they avoided a lot of teams, and that 2 seed in the ACC tournament is probably propped up by that. And I'm not trying to not necessarily knock them, because they were still really good and deserved to be the NCAA tournament. But I look at this as a Virginia Tech as a team of desperation. I think they are going to pull out all the stops to try to win that game and get themselves into the semifinals and try to lock themselves into the NCAA tournament. It's going to be real close. I am interested to see a potential rematch of UNC UVA. Obviously, Carolina blew them out by 20 in Chapel Hill when they first met, but I feel like Virginia is a lot better team now as compared to them. I feel like they can defend better. The Tar Heels, especially Armando Bacot, the emergence of Francisco Cafaro and Caden Shedrick defensively, especially, and I feel like they have the guards that can stop Caleb Love, RJ Davis. Just a matter of whether or not Virginia can score. That's been their question all year. I mean, this is, the defense has not been nearly as good as in years past, but if they can do just enough and score that, I think they have a shot to pull off the upset of Carolina. But again, this is a very wide open ACC tournament, and I could see one of about 7. I could really think that one of about 6-7 teams can win this. I think that's what makes this tournament so exciting this year. Is it's not a lock. To be honest with you, if you could say Duke could easily win, maybe Notre Dame, UNC. They on their good days they can play with anybody, but on their bad days, we saw when they lost at home to Pitt, they can lose to anybody too. They could easily get knocked off. And we obviously talked about, Miami, they have the scores to hang with anybody. We have Virginia and Virginia Tech, who are trying to get their way in the NCAA tournament. They're going to play with a little extra in them. So yeah, it's going to be a real fun tournament.
The ACC, in our conversation with Joshua Voles about this, he had indicated, and I agree with him, the ACC may look down, but it is really not as down as people think it is. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a lot more in this conference than people are giving them credit for. However, I wouldn't take that so far as to say that there's enough people to really make this huge impression in the NCAA. I just think that there are people who deserve to come out of this tournament and to be in the NCAA.
Yeah.
that maybe people are overlooking. And it could be some of these teams that you just mentioned. I don't think, quite frankly, just from the way you sound here, way way you're approaching this is kind of the same approach I'm taking. I'm not going to pick anybody.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to pick one. Maybe I'll just pick Duke just because I'll be chalky. But to an extent, I think there is a little bit of validity to that point about the ACC. But we're seeing these conferences out west, the Mountain West, could easily get 4 bids. The WCC easily could get 4 bids with Gonzaga, St. Mary's, San Francisco, etc. And obviously the Mountain West with like I think San Diego State's going to be in, but all these teams like Boise State will get in. They'll probably get 4 bids. I know Wyoming is on the bubble too. That's an interesting story. Colorado State. Because of that, they're probably keeping teams like Virginia Tech down out of the tournament, but still, it still feels like a down year because it feels like a significant gap between like Virginia Tech and then like the AC Florida State was a few games, and it does. There's really no real good middle to the league.